Hey everybody, Invisiblekatana here doing my top 5 moments from the EA E3 2017 press conference. I got my little paper here, like, hear ye, my top 5. It just ended like a few minutes ago, like I'm doing this right after I've seen the conference, so it's all like fresh in my head, like not a lot of time to look at other things or anything like that. It's just from what they showed at the conference, what I liked. A few things I didn't like, or really is one thing, and it's not really something they showed, and I'll talk about that. But starting with number 5 is actually the Battlefield 1 DLC. This is my number 5 because honestly, Battlefield 1 I think is an interesting game, but it's not that big of a deal to me. Like, I haven't played it, but I do like, I like shooters, I like Battlefield and Call of Duty, and I think just what they announced was pretty cool. Like, they introduced 8 new maps. We have 2 maps that are specifically as night levels, and then the other maps are all winter-based levels, so it's like it's pretty much a whole new campaign, and I thought that was really cool. They talk about adding in, I don't remember the exact name, but they add in basically a battalion of female troopers, so I thought that was really cool as well, like bringing in extra stuff from that era, stuff that just isn't really seen. So I thought that was another cool element from something that was already a cool idea, because not a lot of people do World War I. So I thought that was cool, some good DLC there. Jumping honestly straight to number 4 is Need for Speed Payback. It seemed interesting. I do like the Need for Speed games, same sort of deal as Battlefield, where it's like, it's cool, but it's not that big of a deal to me, but I did like what I saw. I used to play like Need for Speed a lot, so it's more important to me than like the Battlefield games. But I like what I saw. It looks really cool. Honestly, it's a lot of what we've had before, which is just driving cool cars, you drive really fast. I'm actually interested. I normally hate this, to be totally honest, when like, sort of arcade style racing games do like the story and it's like, oh, you're this character who's trying to be super cool. This seems more like you're almost the good guys a little bit, or you're thieves. Like, it was hard to tell because it was like, the people that you go up against are known as like the enforcers of the house. So I was like, okay, maybe they're thieves, but maybe they're actually like Robin Hood sort of thieves. So I was like, that actually has me somewhat interested. So I was like, all right, the story element above all else, I mean, especially considering we got to see so little, and what I saw was like, okay, we've had that before. But the story element, I was like, all right, that actually has me a little bit interested to see where they go with this story and how important it actually is and how good it is, because it's like, they're just, they're racing games, but there's always that story thrown in there, and a lot of times it's like that cheesy sort of thing, and it's like, maybe it's getting better. Maybe we finally got to the point where the cheesy story in all the racing games is getting to the point where it's not so cheesy anymore. So I was like, maybe we'll see that. Maybe it'll still be super cheesy, or maybe it'll just be cheesy enough where it's still entertaining. So I was like, all right, it gives me a bit of hope, and I'm excited to see what they do with that. Number 3 is actually something we're going to get some more information on tomorrow, which is BioWare's new game, Anthem. That just looked cool. BioWare, they've done the future with Mass Effect. They've done, the fantasy past with Dragon Age. And now we'll see, what they're going to do with, a little bit into the future, but also it's post-apocalyptic, seemingly. So, they seem to be blending some elements in there where we have some monsters, kind of like if you were playing Dragon Age, but it's also got some future tech in it. They're like, futuristic suits of armor, almost as if you were in, Mass Effect. So I was like, all right, I'm excited to see, what they're going to do with this. Visually, it looks pretty cool. Like, the way it starts off is like, they talk about the wall, so it kind of makes it seem like there's a very small piece of civilization kind of left on the planet, or at least as far as the characters in the game are concerned. And there are big monsters outside, and you have to go out and fight. There are probably other humans that you have to fight as well, so I'm excited to see how they do this, how much magic and how much tech is going to be involved. Like, are we getting a blend of BioWare's like 2 biggest franchises from, mixing in the magic and fantasy of Dragon Age and the tech and futuristic aspects of Mass Effect, and then it's just like, boom, you have actual technology and actual magic. It's not like, kind of like in Mass Effect where you have certain abilities that seem like magic, but technically it's, it's technology. So, I mean, I'm excited to see that, but of course we'll have to wait until tomorrow, because I believe it's the Microsoft press conference where we're going to be getting some more of that information. But I thought that looked really cool. I do love BioWare stuff. I love the Mass Effect games. So I'm excited to see what they do with this new IP. And it seems like, honestly, with what they showed, even though it was a tiny little snippet, it's BioWare, and just from that trailer I was like, this already seems like it's going to be like their new thing. Like, we have, Dragon Age and then Mass Effect. And they're like, you know what, let's just go with a whole new super crazy ginormous franchise. That seems like what they're doing straight off the top, but we'll have to see if that's kind of how this game is ultimately built up tomorrow. So that was my number 3. Number 2, another new IP, which I thought looked very great. It was very interesting. It was a nice new IP that surprised me. It's from the creator of Brothers, and it's A Way Out, and it's a cool 70s co-op game. I thought it was awesome. I was like, I like the idea of this. The trailer itself, I thought was pretty cool. It was like, okay, you know, we have this 70s aesthetic. We have these two guys who team up to break out of prison, and then where they go from there, who knows? Because I thought at first I was like, okay, so the whole game is them breaking out of prison, and that was like the first chunk of the trailer, and then there's a bunch of stuff outside of prison. So I'm like, they seem to be getting revenge on someone. That kind of shows up a little later on, where they talk about this random person that killed somebody else. So it's like, okay, they break out of prison to get revenge on this person, and then they also have personal things that happen along the way. And I thought that was pretty cool. The idea of it being always co-op was very interesting, where it's always split screen as well. And I was like, that's weird, because it's not, you know, it's just a new thing. And they talked about that a lot, where it's like, you won't play a co-op game the same way, and I don't think we will. If you play a game like this where it always has to be split screen co-op, that's a cool concept. And they have it where it's like, you know, one of the characters will be going through a cutscene, the other character might just be doing something else. They'll actually be able to move around, but the other person is, you know, stuck in the cutscene. So I thought that was cool. Has me very curious if you'll be able to move into people's cutscenes. That was like one of the first things I thought. I was like, so if I just stop, you know, because they have a part where the guys are basically right next to each other, but one turns and he goes into a cutscene, and the guy on the left side was just sweeping. I was like, if I just stopped sweeping and just walked in front, would I still just be there? Like, it's just an in-game cutscene, and I'm just like punching, you know, in the middle of my friend's cutscene. I would love to see that, because I feel like that would just be hilarious to watch. But I thought that was a cool idea. So I'm really excited for, like, the aesthetic of it, the 70s aspect to it, and I feel like that'll, you know, lend to certain elements of the gameplay. But just what I saw looked really entertaining. You know, they have different ways to go about missions. You can use the different characters. You can also, you know, bribe people or just beat up people. I'm sure there's going to be stealth options. They have the part where they're in the truck, so one person's driving, the other person's shooting, and, you know, it's, you know, we don't really get any inclinations as to whether or not you get to choose who does what, or if it's like every situation is like this person does this. At least for, you know, the scripted moments, like them driving, you know, is it whoever gets to the truck first drives and then the other person shoots? Or is it always going to be this character drives, this character shoots, so you have to play this character if you want to be the part, you know, the person shooting out of the back of the truck? So don't really get any of that, but ultimately that's, you know, that's a small little thing. But I just loved what I saw. I was like, that's actually a really cool thing, and I'm excited to get, you know, excuse me, at least like a demo of that, or, you know, something. You know, I can't say soon, but I would love to see like another trailer, or, you know, like just some official gameplay. Maybe we'll get some. It's E3, so maybe we'll get some. It seems like they actually have a lot done based off of what we actually got to see, because a lot of the trailer had a lot of in-game footage. So I was like, okay, maybe they actually have a lot that they can show off, as far as like this portion is actually happening with this character, and then we rewind it, and now this person is doing that option, which they kind of show a little with, you know, bribing and trying to get the laundry or whatever. They kind of cut through it really fast. Like, you can do it with this person where he bribes, and, you know, the person was just like walking around, and then they switch. And it was like, or you could do it this way, and then they just beat up the person and threw him in a room and stuff like that. So it's like, all right, it kind of shows off their personalities. One is like the calmer person, the other's the hyper person. But I love what we got to see from that. So I was like, that's an interesting IP, and I'm really looking forward to that. You know, co-op, and that's always fun, playing with a friend. We'll see what they do as far as, like, you know, if you do play by yourself, do you get to choose which characters, or does it literally have to be you're playing with someone else? So that does make me wonder, because that would be kind of a downfall of the game if you have to have someone else and it can't just be, you know, computer operated. Maybe you pick a character, the other person does something, and that would be another element to it, where it's like, I kind of see it only being co-op because of how they do some of the cutscene stuff. And it's like, well, if you go into a cutscene, maybe you get to control the other player if you're playing solo. So there are, you know, there's still a lot of questions there as far as the mechanics of, can you be solo, and how would that play out? And if not, then you have to have someone either, you know, on the couch with you, or playing with you online. But looked really fun, so I certainly enjoyed that. It definitely had to be my number two, because, you know, it was a new IP. New IPs are always, you know, really big, but we got to see a lot from this one, and I thought that was just really well done. So before I get to my number one, a few honorable mentions. One, this is super random. This is for anyone who actually cares, but the EA Access stuff they mentioned, the PS4 library and all that stuff. A bunch of the games are free for the week, so that's something, you know, that always happens. Also random, buttload of sales across the board, you know, whatever console or anything you got, whether it's Steam or Origins or, you know, PS4, Xbox, bunch of deals all over the freaking place. So just check that out, just as some random bit of news for you guys. The other honorable mention is actually something that's kind of a negative, and is that we don't get to see the other Star Wars game. It's the Visceral Star Wars game, We got like a tiny snippet of it last year where it's like, you know, we got Battlefront 2 coming out. We also have this other Star Wars game coming out. And we don't get to see anything about it. And it's the same this year. And it was like, crap, that sucks. And I love Visceral. Visceral is the developer of Dead Space. I would have loved to have seen Dead Space because I know some people was like up and down for that. I still love Dead Space like crazy. I wanted Dead Space 4. But we don't get anything at all from Visceral. We don't get to see their version of Star Wars at all. And it was like, man, I was really hoping to see that because what we got was kind of like with the Mass Effect Andromeda stuff beforehand, where it was like there was no official trailer. It was like, hey, here's some people on the computer. They're doing some cool stuff with the character models, and we see like a little snippet here and there, and it's like, oh, that's it. And when that's still all we have for the Visceral Star Wars game, so it's like, crap, I hope that maybe there's some interview that comes out later where we get some more info on that, but sadly, the Visceral Star Wars game was not shown off at this conference, so I was like, ah, that really sucks, because it seems like it's going to be, you know, a solo character driven video game, and I would love to see that happen. It seems very gritty, and maybe it'll be in the same vein as Star Wars 1313, which sadly got canceled, so I'm like, that's all that we got. Like, I'm hoping for Visceral to come out with something super epic, and sadly, we didn't get to see that. So that was like the one downside for me. But my number one, of course, if you couldn't guess, is going to be Star Wars. I'm a huge Star Wars fan, so I kind of knew it was going to be number one. But we got to see a lot of great stuff from Battlefront 2. We got a really cool trailer. They, of course, like, honestly, I was like, this is going to be my number one as soon as they had like a bunch of different types of troopers coming out. So that was super awesome. But we still don't get to see, unfortunately, a lot, or really any of the solo campaign. They showed like one extra clip at the very end of like the little trailer they had, where it's like basically the ship blew up and like the characters were being like sucked out into space. And I was like, oh, that seems cool. And then it cut, and that was the end of the trailer. I was like, oh, that sucks. We still need more of the solo campaign. But man, what we got to see was great. We got to see a full 30-minute you know, actual battle with 3 phases to it, which was also great. I got like a bunch of different notes on here. So of course, first thing, free DLC. That's freaking great. It was just like, that was the biggest thing with Battlefront 1. I do have the first one. Actually, that was like, when I bought my PlayStation, I bought the one that had Battlefront automatically downloaded to it, and that was just because I got other free games with it. It was actually worth it. But I didn't really like Battlefront that much. I didn't even care when it first came out. I was like, I don't really care about this, but I got like $90 worth of free stuff when I bought it, so I was like, I guess I'll buy it because it made sense. And I enjoyed the game, but just like everybody said, for one, there's no campaign to it, so that was a big issue. And two, there wasn't that much in general when it first came out. Like I don't have any of the DLC because I was like, it's not worth it to me to buy it. Now it's much better than it was when it even first came out, and this just blows all that out of the water. So it was like a million different things, but of course, free DLC straight off the top. It was like all post-launch DLC. Heroes, weapons, skins, characters, maps, all of it is going to be free. So of course that is like a huge thing. You know, everyone was talking about having a campaign that would get people to buy the second one, but this in itself is like, that's going to get people to buy it. Even if there was no campaign, excuse me, I think free DLC still would have got way more people to get this sequel. So new campaign, which, you know, I'm sure they'll make another announcement showing like the full, you know, a full campaign trailer rather than just here's most of the, you know, multiplayer stuff. But free DLC is great. Of course, the campaign is going to span a pretty decent amount of time. That was announced when it was like first revealed, so that's information's already been out there. For the pre-order thing, you can have the beta plus whatever the star card thing is. They have a Yoda star card, so I don't know exactly what that is because I don't remember them having cards for characters from the first game. So that could have been something they added that I don't know about. But I was like, okay, I just figured that was worth mentioning. Multiple ships per battle, that was something they showed in the DLC. I thought that was awesome, because from the first game, it was like, okay, if you're playing in one of the ships, you get this ship, and that's pretty much it. There's like one, maybe two throughout the battle. It depends on which map you're on, but typically it would be like, alright, you get this one thing, and then this one thing goes in the air, and based on what we saw from the actual, like the 3 phases of the battle, there are multiple ships on both sides. It was like, alright, you have the clone troopers get small walkers, they have the Naboo starships, they have, I don't even know the other type of ship that was there. The clones, or not the clones, but the droids, of course, they get the tank, they get, they seem to only have 2 actually. They seem to only have the tank and then the one flyer. I don't know the name of those flyers, I can't remember. But it seemed like they only had 2, but the clones had more. So maybe we just didn't get to see it. But there were like 5 different vehicles, and I was like, that's way more than you would get. It would normally be like this side has one and this side has one, and that was pretty much it for the first Battlefront. So I was like, okay, there's like 5 different vehicles showing up in this. I thought that was great. We get to see a lot of the classes. They talk about it in the trailer where they have, all the gamers come in and play, where it's like, okay, the way they revamped it is pretty cool. So obviously that's just from the word of people who played it a bunch. So I assume that it's really good. But that was pretty awesome. They change up the idea of how you get ships and stuff like that, and get weapons and even get heroes, which I thought was great. And it's basically, you get to pay for it. It's not just random. It's like, all right, well, I did this good. I have this much money or this many points. I'm going to buy this special weapon. I'm going to buy these reinforcements. Or I just want a ship so I can support my people from up top. And you get to do that automatically. So that was great. And that really shined during the second phase of the battle. And that was one of the things I really loved. Because it starts off huge, huge open battlefield where it's like you have all these different spaces and all these weapons and all these ships and everyone's in just all these different segments. And it went into phase 2 and it was like, yeah, you got all the flying, that's dead. All the spaces in the buildings is like, all of that shrinks down by like maybe 40-50%, and it's just like 2 little pathways. And it was just a crazy firefight. Darth Maul was in there quite a few times, so it was like, okay, clearly if you're doing really well, you could just keep buying the hero over and over again because you get enough points. So we saw Darth Maul like 3 or 4 separate times during this battle sequence. So I was like, that's actually really awesome. It just shows like, unfortunately, if you're sucking, then you're probably just going to keep dying because the person who's doing great is going to keep flying at you with Darth Maul, which was really cool. He had like the spin attack. They mentioned how he can't deflect because it's like, clearly he'd be way too powerful if he could deflect, blasters. But he was in there. We actually got to see like a tiny bit of Han. He got killed twice super fast. We got to see Rey show up once. Sadly, she got taken down. Boba Fett was in there. So it was really great to see how the battle actually changed going into phase 2. I thought that was really well done. And phase 3 was kind of the same thing where it was, still tight-knit, but it kind of opened up a little more because phase 2, it was like all hallway stuff, and then when it hit phase 3, it was like it was still a little bit of the hallways, but then a lot of the grand, like, big staircases in the throne room. So it's like, okay, I like that, where technically it's still inside the building, but it's very different because it was a lot of like tight corners during phase 2, where it's like a tight corner into another hallway, and you're just kind of down the sights is where your enemy is. And then this was like, you go down the hallway and then it just opens up again. And I was like, okay, that's kind of awesome. So, that, Battlefront 2 was definitely my number 1. It does make me want to get it. And I'm like, man, free DLC. So far, at least, from what we have seen and what we've learned from the single-player campaign, it does look pretty cool. So, it's hard for me to say, but it's like free DLC. That'll kind of make it worth it. And it already looks way better, than the one that we have now. We still don't have space battles just yet, so we'll have to see how those are kind of implemented. Are we going to have the same sort of deal where it's like you have people battling outside of the ships and then people trying to infiltrate the separatist ships and stuff like that? So there are a lot of questions as to how some of the space battles will happen, and they mentioned skirmish. On-couch co-op. I even put that on my paper, like that shouldn't be great news, but it is, because of course everyone takes out couch co-op these days. So it was like they had 2 games at the conference with A Way Out and Star Wars Battlefront, where it's like, hey, on-couch co-op, that's actually still a thing, so people do care about that. So shouldn't be news, but it is. They brought it back, so that was nice. But those are my favorite moments from this press conference. Of course, would love to know yours, so please put your comments down in the comment section below. Favorite games that showed up, least favorite games if you want to talk about what you just hated that was there. Of course, for me, I don't care at all about sports, which is why I didn't mention any of the sports stuff. They have some new stuff. They seem to be going forward with a lot of the story things, which I, recently heard is, leading up to E3. A lot of people kept talking about that. Like, man, I hope that they do what they did with FIFA, where it's like you get to make a character and have a story. That's like the main drive for all sports that they had at this conference. It was like, hey, basketball, you're the one in the league and in the court, like it's you, like your reputation matters. And then the same thing was with football. It's like starting from a kid going up. And it was kind of awesome. Honestly, I was like, this seems like some movie stuff, like some Remember the Titans type stuff, where it's like, you're in a small little town and your dad's helping you, play football, and you grow up to be, the hero. And I was like, okay, that's kind of cool. Yeah, I'm sure that'll matter way more to people that will actually buy those games. But for me, I was like, okay, story elements, not that big a deal to me, not that big of a deal to me, because I don't really like sports, so I don't buy sports games. But like I said, those are my favorite moments. Would love to know yours, so please put them down in the comment section below. And of course, thanks for watching.